YouTube, it's your boy JB, aka the King of Soul, and today we got some Jordan 4s to look at. The Air Jordan 4 RM, now this is a collaboration with Nigel Sylvester. They are calling this the Grandma's Driveway colorway. Before we get into the review, do me a favor, make sure you guys like and subscribe to the channel. If you do dig the content, also hit that share button. These videos that we do on this channel are strictly for review purposes, so if you do happen to have any questions or comments, definitely feel free to drop those down below. But without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get into the review. So this sneaker does come in what does appear to be like, you know, an Air Jordan 4 box here. Now, if you do look closely here on the box lid, now it is all black, but one thing that they did switch up on this, now it typically would say like, you know, Nike Air here with the swoosh, but they did give us the hit of red and they switched it out and gave us like that bike brand in here. If you do a 360 around the box, you will see more of that Air Jordan branding with the flight text there in red. Now the bottom portion of the box, now it is textured here, and it is kind of like, you know, in that gray kind of brown color here. More of that textured appeal here down at the bottom. You do have some Nike Air and copyright text here in white on you know, all three corners here, but on this one here they did give us that red Jordan Jumpman logo there with the flight branding. For those that do care about that, there you go. Now the box label on the sneaker does read Air Jordan 4 RM SP. The colorway says Pro Green, Metallic Platinum, and then Black. Now when you do open the box, now up underneath, they did give us this hit of red here, and they did give us like, you know, the gold text there with the arrow kind of there, if you will. And there isn't like any stamps or anything like that inside the box itself. Now inside the box, they did go ahead and give us this sheet here, and it does have like, you know, some cutout stickers here that does have the Jordan and the bike Air text here, if you will. And they did go ahead and give us some secondary laces here in this white color, and we'll get into that a little bit later. The packaging itself inside the box, now they did give us this paper here, and it does have it's wax paper to the touch, but they did give us this image of Nigel Sylvester when he was younger. For those that don't know who Nigel Sylvester is, he is like, you know, a pro bike rider, and he has collaborated with Jordan brand on other sneakers in the past, but they did go ahead and double wrap this sneaker up underneath. You are met with this white wax paper here, if you will. Up under that, you are met with the actual sneaker itself. Now inside the box, there isn't anything else to kind of notate there, but they did kind of give us that white ingrained YM sticker here, and they do have like this cutout here on the box. But yeah, man, pretty solid release here. Now this one was extremely limited. I don't really know like how many pairs this sneaker had, but it was definitely one of those hard to obtain sneakers. From the you know, to the touch, it does kind of look like there is like some nubuck here material here throughout the upper, but it's actually not. It's actually leather, and they did give us like, you know, some of this nylon mesh material here for the tongue. It's just an all green sneaker here. Now they did kind of switch things up as far as like, you know, most Air Jordan 4 sneakers, they are normally like cut a little bit higher. Like with this particular release, they did kind of give us like, you know, a more low profile appeal, if you will. But not going to take too long on this one. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. Again, this is that Air Jordan 4 RM collaboration with Nigel Sylvester, and then this is that Grandma's Driveway colorway. So we're going to take a look at the right sneaker like we always do. Now from first observation, the sneaker does look like what you would expect from any other Air Jordan 4. Now on the lateral side of the sneaker, typically with Air Jordan 4s, you will have like, you know, your lace crowns here, but they kind of like merged everything together. Again, it's kind of like more of like a low profile appeal, if you will. But on this side, you do have like this kind of TPU material, if you will, which does kind of feel like, a combination of like, plastic and leather. And it is like, when this dark green hit here, they do have the Jordan Jumpman logo there going towards the back. The sock liner of the sneaker, it is like, composed of this nylon mesh material here in green going toward the front toe box of the sneaker. They do have this hit of that kind of like, silver, platinum, metallic, whatever they put on the box label. But it is like, green along the panels. Green stitching is consistent throughout the entire sneaker. The midsole of the sneaker, it is like, kind of like a two-part midsole, which we have, or which you would expect from like most Air Jordan 4 sneakers. But it does have like, the hit of black over here. And then going towards the heel, you do have the hit of black. And then you do have that hit of white. Of course, they do have your cutout there for the air bubble where you can see through the other side of the sneaker. And that's pretty consistent with most Air Jordan 4 sneakers. On the lateral side, that's pretty much it there to notate. They do have like, this black kind of rubber material coming from the outsole of the sneaker. And that's pretty much it on this side. Now going towards the front toe box of the sneaker, switching gears, you are met with more of that green leather material, if you will. They did go ahead and give us this green mud guard here. And of course it does have like, some green stitching. The upper portion of the toe box, they did give us this hit of like this green nylon mesh material. And that nylon mesh is consistent throughout the entire tongue of the sneaker itself. The sneaker did come pre-laced, and they did give us these flat green laces here. But again, I mentioned earlier, they did give us like, a secondary lace option. But the upper portion of the tongue, it does have this Bike Air by Jordan text there, and that metallic silver color there, if you will. The back of the tongue doesn't really have too much going on. It just have like, your size label there. And the back of the tongue does have more of that nylon mesh material that is consistent with the sock liner of the sneaker. The inside of the shoe itself, they did give us this black insole. I'm not going to pull it out, but I will be sure to get some close up there in the B-roll. But the insole itself is black, and they did give us that Air Jordan text there in silver. And that's pretty much it on the front. Now going towards the medial side of the sneaker, pretty much just like the other side, you do have this green TPU material here for this triangular wing here, and a lace crown for the laces here going towards the front. More green hits along the panels here, and of course you do have like, some more green stitching. The midsole is that, two-tone black and white, and of course you do have the other side there for the air bubble, and that's pretty much it there. Now going towards the rear, this is where things kind of get interesting. Now with most Air Jordan 4s, you would typically see in either a Nike Air branding here on the back, or you will see like, the Jordan Jumpman branding. This time with this collaboration, they went ahead and gave us that bike text there with the Nike swoosh, and it does kind of have like, that silverish gray hit. And the pull tab itself is like, more of that TPU material that's consistent on both sides of the sneaker. You do have more like, that leather hit there. And then of course you do have your two-tone midsole, and that's pretty much it for the rear. The Jordan text here is on the side like I mentioned before. Now going towards the bottom of the sneaker, now this is like, pretty consistent, pretty standard from what you would expect from like any other Air Jordan 4. They just gave you like, the hits of black and then red here at the bottom. Herringbone traction is consistent throughout the entire bottom portion. The smack dead there in the middle, you do have the Nike Air text there in white. Now the other sneaker, the left sneaker, it is pretty consistent with the right. They didn't swap out like, any branding or materials or anything like that. Everything is consistent with the right sneaker. That's pretty much it on this one. If I were to rate this sneaker, I would definitely give this one probably like a solid, let's go with an 8 out of 10 on this one. One thing that I would have done differently or would have value, I'm not really a fan of like, the low profile, like the low top Air Jordan 4s. I feel like if they would have kind of kept like the same overall, like, approach on the sneaker as far as like the colorway and everything, but made it like, you know, a standard like Air Jordan 4 build, and they did throw that bike branding on the back, I feel like that would have did this sneaker a little bit, you know, better justice. So yeah, man, let's go ahead and get this one a solid 8 out of 10. As far as like comfort and sizing, the sneaker does fit like what you would expect from like any other Air Jordan 4. Now for me, that is true to size. I don't foresee a reason for you to want to go up or down a half size on this one. And that's pretty much it. But I definitely want to take time to shout out the vendor who actually gifted the sneaker to review on the channel for you guys. And I do encourage you to stay engaged like always. I can be reached on all social media platforms. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, even here on YouTube. Everything is at the King of Soul. But before we go, I'm gonna hit you guys with a 360 and a B-roll like I always do. But there you go. Air Jordan 4 RM, and again, this is the collaboration with Nigel Sylvester. This is that grandma's driveway colorway. So there's the front of the sneaker, lateral side of the right, lateral side of the left. There's your bottom. There's the medial side of the sneaker. And then there's the rear. And again, I thank you guys for taking the time to tune in like always. But until next time, see you later.